Okay, we're going to have a look at something now which is called the sculpt environment. It's where we do something called creating forms. Um, I'm not advising that this is the way to do much of your work, but occasionally it's a useful thing to do to create some more interesting shapes. The reason I'm hesitant to use it is because it's quite hard to edit afterwards. Okay, we've got this kind of rough chair shape here. I'm going to try and make a kind of cushion shape to go with it. So I'm going to go into this create form environment, and I'm going to basically create myself a box shape. Okay, so I'm going to do it on this bottom plane here, and it's asking me to start off, so I'm going to click and I'm going to kind of drag. So if I wanted to make a shape roughly that's going to go on top of that seating area there, I might start with something like this. Now before I click any more, you can see up in the box that opens I've got a whole series of things. So I've got dimensions here that I can change. So for instance, the height of that is nearly 200 mil. Probably I'd want that to be much less. Maybe I'll try something like 80 mil. Okay, and the width of it and the length of it I can alter. So if I wanted to do it similar to the size of the seat, I think that was about 480. So if I went 480 wide, and if I went maybe 400 back. Now I can play with these sizes to see what they look like. The other thing you can see, there's a series of lines that go all the way around here, and they're designated by these things here that say height and width faces and length faces. And if you change the numbers, if I change this 6 to a 4, watch what happens. You see that it changes the number of lines that go across it. Now the more lines, the more kind of areas that you can affect when you change something. So when you can edit them, you've got more areas that you can kind of select to change on. So I'm going to go for something like that to start with, and I'm going to click OK. So what can I do with it? Well, this particular thing now, any of these areas, if I click on them, they go blue. Okay. If I want more than one area to be blue, I can multiple select by holding down Control. So if I grabbed all of those at the same time, that means I can now edit that form. I can right click and say Edit Form, and I get a menu box up. It will only affect that sort of series of selected areas. So there's lots of weird and wacky things I can do with them. What I could do is I could select entire areas to change on Edit. So if I put a selection window around a bunch of them, it will select that whole bunch, and I can twist them by changing the angles. I can pull and push them to kind of distort them in some way. I can expand and contract. So there's lots of weird and wonderful things. I'm going to cancel that because I'm not going to do that to any of those. What I could do is I could do a back piece. So this could be possibly the bit that goes here. I could do a bit that goes at the back there, but I can change all sorts of elements on it afterwards. The lines themselves can also be selected. So if I click once, it selects that one little line. If I double click, it selects it all the way around. And the same thing then, I can right click and get my edit form, and I can affect just that band. So I can do sort of distortions on it in lots of different ways to gain lots of different shapes. But ultimately, when I get the shape that I want, I hit Finish Form, and that thing becomes another part. So if I wanted to now select this one over on the side here, you can see I've got two bodies, and the second body is that cushion. So I could change that cushion into a component, and I could call that component something like seat cushion, and the other component, which is the actual main body, I could change that, and that could become we'll call that seat, and I'll make that into a component. So there's my one component, there's my other component. Now the advantage of components is they can be moved around, they can be lined up more easily, and you can put different things on them. So I can make these into different materials. So if I went into my render environment, I could quite easily change the material. So if I wanted the seat cover to be made of leather, and I want this bit to be made, say, of plastic, I can choose a colour and drag that on. And then you can see the differences of materials as well as colours. One thing that is worth mentioning, if I didn't like the colour, up here where it says plastic glossy, I could edit this or I could duplicate it. So I'm going to make a second one and edit the second one. I can come in here and I can change the colour. So if I wanted it to be some sort of pinky colour instead, let's go for a darkish pink, and I'll change the name of it as well so I don't get confused. I'll call that one pink, get rid of the one because it's no longer a duplicate, it's now an original, and hit done. In a second now this will change, you can see that's become a pink colour, and I can use it that way. So I can change the colours of any of the materials that I select as well. Let's go back into my modelling environment, and now basically what I can do is I can change these things around. If I wanted to select that whole thing, and I can go for move, and probably the way I would do this is I would line it up by looking at it from a side view and dragging to roughly where I want it to go. I can always nudge it with my arrow keys if it's not quite where I want it to go, or I can zoom in to get it more accurate. And if I change it around and look at it from the other face, okay, I can see, in fact let's go from the other side altogether, I can see that that's nowhere near where I want it to be, so I can move it across this way. And again, if I want it a little bit more accurate, I can just be a little bit more precise. I can change this number here if I wanted to make that, say, an extra 2 mil. That's the wrong way, so I'll make it 479 or 478. That's right in the middle, so perfect. Click OK, go back and have a look at it in my other view. Now, okay, it's not the fanciest chair you've ever come across, but you get the idea in terms of how you can change those components using different types of methods. Okay, good luck.